Everybody, welcome back to the Beyond the Peloton podcast. I'm Spencer Martin, author of the Beyond the Peloton newsletter. I'm here with Andrew Vontz from the Choose the Hard Way podcast. The Always the Hard Way newsletter is post-Tour de France time, Andrew. We saw Tadej Pogačar win. We saw Remco Evenepoel get second. Probably shocked at the Tour, honestly, if we're being honest with each other. Isaac Del Toro, Pogačar's teammate, third, and 19-year-old Paul Sixas, fourth, which as time goes by, I'm kind of more and more shocked by that a 19-year-old got fourth at a stacked Tour de France. But Andrew, what are you thinking? How are you feeling a few days after it wraps up?
Well, Spencer, I'm 7 days post-chemo. I've been covered in a rash with an intermittent fever for most of the last week. And it's hard for me to tell if it's from the chemo or what I just saw at the Tour de France, honestly. And I know that we're tight for time today. For those of you tuning in, Spencer is packing up his manor in the UK right now, has to get everything situated in the stables, has 24 horses, and he's getting ready to hit the road for a well-deserved trip with the family. So Spencer, we don't want to spend too much time with you today as you're wrapping things up, getting all the feed in the right bins. I have a handful of questions I would like to pose to you, and I'm guessing you might have the same. And for anyone listening, you can follow me at HardwayPod on Instagram. That's where I'm sharing about my cancer experience and also my thoughts about professional cycling. And you can find links there in my link tree to the Choose the Hard Way podcast, the Always the Hard Way newsletter, and much more. So Spencer, the first thing I wanted to throw out to you is, how do you get through a stage when you're going to the bathroom in your pants? This is a mystery. Maybe we'll get a team doctor on to explain this. I've reached out to UAE's press team who have never responded to anything I've sent to them. This is a mystery I want the answer to. Because imagine if in civilian life, you could have the flu and still go ride your bike 100 miles and then be competitive 2 days later. You have any insights here?
I'm glad you asked. Also, I'm living right now in a session where Roy's trying to get to the board meeting and he can't get in time because the traffic's too bad. I literally got out of the cab to walk because I'm walking faster than the traffic when I have a beautiful view of the Thames just right along the North Bank. No better way to be podcasting than right now. And I hope I'm more successful than Logan's call in to that board meeting. But I think you're pulling at strings that would suggest that no one was going to the bathroom in their pants. I think we got a little fooled there. I think perhaps there were some water poops happening off the bike, but I don't think anyone was having accidents on the bike. And in fact, I think the UAE is sick, maybe got slightly overplayed. And I don't think the UAE was jumping forward to correct anybody because they looked pretty dang good. Like when Adam Yates is pulling, going to the last lap of the Champs-Élysées with like some of the most powerful riders in the world, kind of made me think, I don't know how sick he was during this Tour de France. I think maybe there was some sore throats. Maybe someone had an upset stomach, but I don't think the team is stricken by explosive diarrhea as we were led to believe.
All right. I do think Yates was significantly ill, and he did make it through that day, and he came back to do what you just described. I'm going to keep pulling on this thread.
What does significantly ill mean? Like, because you are significantly ill currently.
Yeah, I would say. So he wouldn't be, that's correct.
He wouldn't be like that. Like, are we talking fever? Not fever? What do we think?
Let's find out. I know a few team doctors. I don't know what information I'm going to get. And there might be tactics, techniques, and procedures they just can't disclose publicly. There's something going on there, though, and I feel like it's time we had the truth. Stay tuned for that. I'll come back with answers. To your point regarding the final circuit there prior to the Champs-Élysées, do you feel Pog was out of position going into the final climb?
He definitely was.
What was going on there?
I wrote that newsletter in a daze. I think I thought it, didn't write it down. I mean, I think it's just hard. I was watching that and I was just thinking to myself, man, it's like way harder to get in a position than people think. It's especially that's like Private B Hill right there, fighting for the final corner.
Right.
It's just, especially if you're that size and you're going up against the big boys who have maybe even more power than Pogačar on the flats.
Yeah.
Just not so easy to get to the front. You can kind of see the limits of a 140-pound man racing for the classics. Would it have mattered? Probably not. He probably isn't going to. But what do we say about San Remo? Like, he's never going to be able to drop these guys on these shallow climbs. And then it took him 5 years to figure it out. And he did it. But when he went up, when he was not solo the last time, it was kind of over because he was never going to drop Van der Poel, who was that maybe the best Van der Poel we've ever seen? That was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was talking to my kids about that. I'm glad for a variety of reasons that we saw that performance from Van der Poel. And I noted this privately. It may be the only Van der Poel victory where he crossed the line in more than 30 seconds elapsed before his partner covered his body. So it's significant for that reason. He was just alone in front of the camera for about 30 seconds. I think it's good for children to see the very best in the world go that deep to win. And boy, did that man go deep. And I told my kids, I think that may have been, I hate to say, the most impressive ever. It's potentially the most impressive victory I've ever seen in a bike race.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to think about because we've obviously seen a lot of impressive things.
We've seen a lot of impressive things. Yeah.
But and I kind of feel bad for that effort and Van der Poel because you yada past it, right? Because it happens like, whoa, that was nuts. And then you're kind of moving on with your life because it's the last stage of the tour. But if you think about it, that in no way should have been a solo win. Like mathematically, that made no sense whatsoever that wasn't a sprint. And he held them off and even dropped Pogačar in the process. So that gives you a barometer for how difficult it was. You might be onto something there. It could have been the most impressive victory we've seen. I mean, the one that would be up there with it is Van der Poel Amstel Gold 2019. But if you consider the increased stakes and level of competition, he didn't have the world's best sprinters bearing down on him during that victory. This might be even more impressive.
I think the level of effort he had to put into this is greater than anything he's ever done. If you watch the final 200 meters of that race and him muscling the bike while just look at the difference in cadence. He looks like he's a pro cyclist from 2007. And then you have the sprinters bearing down. Van der Poel's cadence was probably 90, I would guess. Just fully muscling everything. He's decelerating, and the sprinters are just charging at him because this is the most consequential win you can have as a sprinter. And he pulled it off. Some questions about, hey, did Jasper decelerate to let Mathieu win? I don't think so. It was damn impressive. And it was effort like I don't think I've ever seen out of Van der Poel. And if you looked at him after the race during that window of time, he was pretty wrecked.
If you think Philipsen didn't decelerate, then we better hope that he better be glad that he didn't win. Because can you imagine if he would have pipped his teammate after that?
That would have been incredible. Yeah, that would have been incredible.
At first, I thought that happened, and I thought that's why he wasn't acknowledging him, but he was just effed out of his mind and didn't know where he was. I was like, oh no, Jasper, what have you done? What have you done? But no, it was incredible. And then to even that's a tricky spot for Philipsen to be in because he can't, if he goes too early, he risks pulling everybody up and then they lose. Someone comes by both of them and they lose it. So, and he looked easy coming by everybody. Like Philipsen would have won that sprint if Van der Poel would have been caught, which I did not think that was going to be even in contention for the sprinters. So I was blown away by that. Do you like that course? Do you like the change from the old one? And then even last year is where the finish was closer to the climb.
I would like to see them reduce the distance between the climb and the finish. Right now, it's too long. And there's too much of a potential for it to come back together and just be the same old sprint. Van der Poel is the only rider who could have pulled that off in this instance. Could Wout have potentially, like Peak Wout, could Peak Wout have done it? I don't know. But the finish needs to have more of an element of surprise is maybe not the right word. There need to be more than
suspense.
Yeah, there need to be more than 2 or 3 riders who could possibly win it solo, because otherwise it's just going to keep coming down to a sprint. So I don't think they've found the Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold distance between the climb and the finish. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't even really understand why they added that distance from last year. It seemed to be fine. And then they added an extra lap on the Champs-Élysées. I don't quite get what the appeal of that is, unless they thought it was too selective. But last year it was rainy, so of course it was going to be more selective than it was. So I think they could have kept it just like last year, and it would have been perfect. Because I don't see another, unless you get a group away. If it was a group of 4, if it was Mads, Van der Poel, Pogačar, Remco, like we had for a little bit, all world champion breakaway, by the way, then I think they could hold him off. But I do worry that it's just going to, the sprinters are going to hack it, and we're going to have a sprint every year. But I don't think they needed to extend it at all. I liked last year's course better. But what did you think about Tour overall? How would you rate it? A lot of complaints in the studio on the move and coming in from listeners like, oh, we knew who was going to win. It's my opinion that the Tour is kind of always boring, but what were your thoughts on it?
Bike racing day to day was exciting. It delivered. I was reflecting on this morning. I was like, how many kind of whatever stages were there? I mean, the individual time trial, of course, for me is always a whatever stage. Don't really care. The team time trial was much more exciting than I thought it would be. It was, as anticipated, confusing to all the civilians I knew who watched the race. Nobody understood what was going on. But it did deliver something exciting in terms of the results. And I have to say, I think I'm net positive on that stage. I liked it. So there was some interesting experimentation. I also was thinking this morning, clearly, I don't like and I don't believe in time trials. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate mail for this. That's fine. You can keep believing in time trials. What if there had been another longer time trial? Would that have made any difference? And I believe the answer is no. So, right? I was thinking of end-rain. It's like, okay, yeah.
Because what if there was 2 50K long individual time trials? Then Remco gets, let's just give them 2 minutes each. I think that's generous. Let's give them 2 minutes each. 4-minute advantage on Pogačar. Right. He still loses by 2.5 minutes, or if not more.
Yeah.
But is that more exciting for us? It's tricking us. It's a mental pacification. Because we're like, Remco's ahead, but he's not ahead. It's like a staggered runners on a track where you're like, lane 7's ahead. But it's like, well, they will be behind because the inside lane has to run a shorter distance. Maybe that would seem more exciting. It's also very rare to have a situation where someone like Remco is a GC contender and is a better time trialist than the best GC guy. So we're kind of in a unique situation. I think the fear normally would be you have 2 50K long time trials, and then you have Chris Froome and Lance Armstrong just pummeling people, and then they're pummeling them in the mountains. So it's like, well, why did we just put ourselves through that? That was kind of silly. But I don't know. I mean, I do kind of wonder if the mountain stages are too hard. That's one thing I was wondering. Is it causing, because if you think about the last week, Carapaz was the best climber in the last week. Unbelievable performance. Maybe Mads Pedersen was the second best climber in the last week. And then Pogačar was kind of just playing defense the whole time, except for Alpe d'Huez. So it's like, is this too hard that people are incentivized to do nothing, basically, because it's so difficult?
Yeah, and looking at the margin of victory, Pog wins by 6.5 minutes over Remco. 9 minutes and 42 seconds over his teammate, Isaac Del Toro. Yeah, these are end-rain margins of victory. And I guess if you're a GC head and want more of a GC battle, it's potentially boring. I also, personally, I really enjoyed the tour. And interestingly, Spencer, I don't know if you've heard this, but I have cancer. And because I have cancer, I watch more of the tour live this year than I have in a long time. I know you watched all of the tour live, as you always do. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great race. And part of what I really enjoyed was I felt most days I watched, other than the individual time trial, which we did watch, I think we probably watched the last 10 riders go, which was actually, it was slightly more dramatic because you had the Leipowitz wreck, and there just clearly were some areas on the course where riders were struggling with bike control. I did find it, this is interesting to me. I don't think an average person is probably going to find this interesting. Watching the different approaches people took to the time trial, starting with the climb, which that was just really bizarre. That was an interesting choice, I thought. But most stages, from 120K out and cycling 4.2, the action just doesn't stop. Just like watching people try to get into that break, given how few opportunities there were with Pog and then the handful of riders who ended up winning stages, that was just really exciting bike racing, and getting to watch that, which typically all of that action has happened before you get the TV coverage most of the time. So I enjoyed that. The only challenge was, I don't know if Flow has moderately stepped up their cybersecurity or if it's just some glitch when you have Flow on an iPad. I was struggling to get screen mirroring from my iPad to my television with Flow with my VPN on. So that was a bit of a gating factor. It always streamed fine from my phone, and you of course cannot use AirPlay because AirPlay will tell the TV that you're on a different network because of the VPN, and then the Flow app sniffs that and then it won't start. I feel like we're a year out from Flow shutting us down.
I don't know. I think it's a glitch with the iPad because on the phone,
all right,
little peek behind the curtain, we got in trouble for saying this on Peacock. At the Move Studio, we watch Flow. Like, we just mirror it. We, use the fake Apple TV, like the smart TV, to cast it to the TV from a phone. No issues whatsoever on it. And
yeah.
I think Flow's entire business model, I don't want to out them. I think they buy the cheapest tour rights, which is Canada. So that's why it's Canada. It's almost free. And then they kind of openly encourage the use of VPN use, with the thought being, if you're a savvy person, you buy Flow and you use it to watch the entire season using a VPN. So I believe Flow, if we really press them, would be internally like positive about VPNs, I think. But
yeah,
hopefully they don't shut us down, because we'd be in trouble. Because I also have a Eurosport subscription, tons of ads, couldn't watch it. So I was Flow the whole way because it's ad free. Like, that is luxury experience that I hope lasts forever because it's amazing.
I did want to ask you about this because Flow, when you turn, we're going deep Flow here. When you turn Flow on initially and go to the stream, it plays an ad 100% of the time in the main player. The hack is you just hit the small, the thumbnail, and then the ad stops.
Yes.
But during the broadcast, they don't have interruptive ads. It will go to a split screen, and there'll just be a bizarre static ad. I think I was getting maybe Visit Hong Kong ads for a while. And then the predominant ad this year was Granger Tools, which I believe it's like Snap-on or some other tool brand. So it's just some ad for tools. My kids kept asking me, what are Granger Tools? Hey, the advertising is working. We're talking about it in the household. Maybe that's the next tool we purchase. But forget Park Tools. We're going full Granger all the time. And the pop-ups always, or not pop-ups, it would go to split screen. So the race would get smaller because you just have less screen surface area. And it seemed to always happen at a critical moment of the race, similar to the ASO feed, where 100% of the time when some critical action's happening at the front of the race, like what is the gap between Matthew and Pog and the pursuers, that's when you cut to the French rider getting dropped on the climb or like waving at the crowd, right?
Or they have like an esoteric, like this day in history.
Yeah.
Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Like, what? It's like, well, we produced this, so we have to air it. But like, why are you airing it right when the race is exploding? And I'm seeing some guy in Cofidis's, like a mini documentary about him inside the tour coverage. Probably not needed. Not the thing I'm really looking for there. But Andrew, what was your highlight of the tour if you had to pick one?
Might say Carapaz. And I want to talk to you about Carapaz. I have some questions for you. His wins were thrilling. And especially seeing him win, you have to wonder if Sepp Kuss would have pulled the win off. And I have to say, the way Sepp handled that defeat just made me think about the way Remco and some other riders sometimes handle losing. Sepp Kuss, the most gracious loser in the Peloton, perhaps, when, Visma just did not have a great tour, obviously, which we'll talk about. But seeing Carapaz pull that off after, having the perineum cyst removed, the surgery, what a comeback. And, EF Tour of Denmark, back-to-back stage wins on stages 1 and 2, right? So EF has a hot hand right now. I did not expect that. There are a lot of other things that jumped out at me, but, maybe it's recency effect because those wins came later in the tour. And I also began to wonder after Carapaz won the second Alpe d'Huez stage, if he had not effed around and had just taken more of a diesel approach and kept that breakaway moving instead of riding in that old school attacking climber style of his, which is great for getting the break started and having the right composition of riders. I'm just not sure that tactically he played that out correctly. Because I thought, he could have won both Alpe d'Huez stages, which would have been completely insane. Because I think physically he completely could have done it. Just tactically, I felt like he blew it.
Well, I should, before I have thoughts about that, but we should say,
Okay.
Carapaz, rider of the third week, ASO should be buying him a gold-plated Rolex. Like, they owe him a lot because he kind of made the end of the race. I thought he was incredible. I would say best climber in the race. Tadej is the fastest climber in the race. But are you suggesting Richard Carapaz would get stuck in a petty game and allow that to slow him down on a climb? I don't know if I believe that. And I couldn't, because I rewatched every stage in the afternoon after the stage. I couldn't, like, knowing what I knew happened, I could not believe he was riding that way. And I know he was annoyed because Lenny Martinez wasn't pulling through. I don't understand why, because he was moving up into the top 5. He's probably thinking, I'm going to sit on and get these guys in the sprint, which he did do, but maybe there's a time and place for everything. And I think when you're going for an Alpe d'Huez win, when there's a freight train coming behind you, maybe just take a couple pulls. Yeah. Because it would have kept Carapaz on board, and Carapaz clearly let that get in his head and didn't, but if you're track standing, like there was times where he was not pedaling on Alpe d'Huez, and that has to slow you down, right? Like that has to be slower than just riding a steady pace and getting up the climb as fast as possible. I still can't believe it. It's like, okay, I know Lenny's annoying, but let's just keep riding and then try to drop him, because he did drop him at the finish, Like, and Lenny wouldn't have caught him without Pogačar coming up. So I do think Carapaz and Kuss probably biffed that one a little bit and got caught up in the Lenny Martinez annoyance versus, hey, we have an unstoppable force coming after us. Let's keep this pace high, because track standing on Alpe d'Huez will slow you down, I think, is what the numbers tell you.
I believe that's the case. Definitely. What was your favorite moment of the tour?
Favorite, off the top of my head, I would I'd probably say Paris. Like, just in terms of, I can't believe this is like watching it and thinking, I can't believe this is happening. I thought it was thrilling. I also did stage 2. We barely remember it, but just because everything was in front of us, high drama, like high stakes, high drama. I thought the finish was incredible when Pogačar and Del Toro went 1-2, but everyone's still kind of in the mix. I thought stage 2 was incredible. Like maybe the best stage of the tour. And then Alpe d'Huez, the Pogačar, I thought it would be closer. I was like, man, that's a tough record to get. And then he just absolutely blows it out of the water. Even though, do you think Pogačar was riding all out, or do you think he was slowed down by the crowd?
I think he was slowed down by the crowd. And
I think so too.
I've heard a lot of different takes on this, how this is amazing. It shows the strength of our sport. Like, look at our fans. I don't know. You can go into any NFL stadium and the fans are in the stands. And if you go on the field, something's going to happen. Like, you're not getting near the talent. So I don't quite buy this argument that we need people in the physical space of riders harassing them. ASO, man, I have a lot of thoughts about this. As you've said, and I agree, the tour is the star. It's not the riders. And seeing that Skoda stop, allegedly because its sensors picked up the human in front of it, that I guess in the absence of having sensors,
just so it runs over.
Yeah, ASO's view is they should have actually run over and killed someone.
Maybe that was a loss in translation. Like, I don't know how you were going to land this plane, because Terry Gouvenou, the course designer, said it's modern cars' fault that we caused a rider to slam into the back of the team car, because modern cars have sensors that make them stop when humans are in front of them. It's like, yeah, but okay, so they don't stop and they plow the human over? Like, where does this get better? Like, I don't think it's the car's fault. It is crazy. Like, it is cool to see. But watching it, you have the feeling of, it's like bullfighting, where you're like, I don't know how long this is going to last in the modern world. Like, this doesn't feel like it should be happening still. Because remember, we were here, it's not an isolated incident. I think Vincenzo Nibali broke his back in 2018 because he got knocked over by fans. And was that Giuseppe Guarini got tackled by a dude as he was going to the finish to win, still got up and won. But it just feels like it might. I mean, remember the Lance time trial was totally crazy, where he said the State Department called him and told him there was credible threats against his life on the climb. It's like, well, it feels like the tour should be responsible for ensuring that doesn't happen.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and they do try to go to it less and less. They don't go to it as much as they used to.
It doesn't seem like something that's sustainable. We've talked about it many times. You just talked about there having been at one point a credible threat against a rider. I mean, yeah, you have people who've been sitting on a mountain drinking for 4 days. A lot of people say, hey, that looks really cool. I want to go there. I have zero interest in being around a group of people who've been drinking heavily for 4 days in the sun that are doing stuff like trying to flip cars. There are a lot of places I could go to connect with that kind of energy, and they're typically places that I purposefully do not go to. But maybe there are.
Yeah,
there's somebody out there who says, man, I'd really like to put on one of those bucket hats and binge drink for 4 days and flip a car.
It doesn't feel like, even just the idea of the summit finish in general, where it's taking people 3.5 hours to get off of them. It's just, I feel like in 20 years, it's going to be quite different than it is now. And maybe not. Maybe it's the same, but there feels like there's optimization there that could be made. Before I have to go, I do have to ask you about Mr. Mads Pedersen. That might have been the worst sprinting experience we've ever seen in winning the green jersey. He's getting 8th to 12th in bunch sprints. But that climbing was unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that from a green jersey contender that's not a climber. That was crazy. Like, getting into breaks on HC climbs.
Yeah, the climbing was impressive. It just, for me, kind of calls into question the validity of the green jersey as an enterprise. And there are a lot of instances of this in the tour, and it's a conversation we're going to have to revisit later, because I know that you have your equine team rolling up shortly, and all the hooves.
Competition. Some sort of fancy global tour. It's August 9th, 7th through 9th. Show up, West London. You'll see it. How this is being built right in the middle of the city, I'm not quite sure, but it's impressive. They love their horses here.
Yeah. Who doesn't love a good horse? I've just been thinking about, with the green jersey, with Remco taking second, are these kind of Pyrrhic victories? Are they diluted somewhat? I mean, with mods in particular, I'd have to go back and do the math, but the one of those early sprints where he very clearly radically deviated from his line in a way that it just like was a clear foul. He should have been relegated. He shouldn't have gotten those points. He wasn't a factor in the sprints. And for Trek as well, just what's going on inside of that team, where I guess they won. Quint Simmons got a best teammate medal, I saw. I didn't know they had that, but he had a medal. And Mods wins the green jersey. Ayuso is a soup sandwich. Just, I don't know. And then with Remco, I'm glad that he got second place and he feels good about it. He did win 2 stages. One of those stages, again, I'm not really sure he would have won that if Pog had not given him the stage. So I feel like there's some diluted signal about some of the riders who came out ahead in this race. And that's maybe a topic to discuss later.
Is there anyone better than him right now that's not Pogačar? Sure, in theory, there's not. But I still have no confidence that, in theory, looking at this result, he could roll up to the Vuelta and win it, right? Assuming Pogačar wasn't there. Pogačar will be there. But let's say the Giro next year. He should win. And maybe this is not fair. I'm still no closer to being confident that he could do that. That he wouldn't mess it up somehow.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't see him winning the Giro. I don't see him winning the Vuelta, and I don't see him ever winning the Tour de France. I'm not really sure. Some unresolved questions we're going to have to explore later. One of them, Visma talked about how they had something really big planned for the third week of the tour with Jonas, even though he was getting completely worked and was on the ropes. Maybe they were just saying that. I am curious, what were they going to do? Because the team as a whole, in my view, did not perform very well, other than Sepp nearly winning that second Alpe d'Huez stage, which may have been one of the hardest stages in the modern history of the tour, which was impressive, but the team just didn't look good. And I don't know if morale was low or what was the case with Jonas gone, but like, what was planned for the third week? That's one question. Second question, where does Visma go from here? If we have Wout and Jonas potentially retiring, gone after the end of the season, then what happens? Who's their new GC rider? Because I don't think it's Matteo. He's not going to win the tour. So who is it? And then the third, this is a statement, not a question. I believe we're going to see Pog and Jonas at the Vuelta. Does this then become the most consequential Vuelta ever?
He did the Giro. There's no way he's doing the Giro Tour Vuelta. I think that's.
It's a collarbone.
If you thought
he's got to be back on the trainer by now.
I'm not saying this to be provocative.
He's recovering. He's like, he did put in some laminate flooring. He'll be good in no time.
Now he's got a collarbone to recover from. But if you thought Visma did win the team time trial, I feel like we should say that was impressive. But if you saw that it's fat, it's because they were all super tired from the Giro. 4 of them were doubling.
All right, that's fair. That was impressive.
I think that's a recipe for success. And I still don't quite get, Campenaerts is a shell of the Giro. So, Piganzoli was pretty good, but he was not as good as he was at the Giro. I don't think Jonas was as good as he was at the Giro. Which isn't shocking. It's a hard race. You're moving around for 3 weeks doing a bike race. So I think that's why they probably looked flat
Right.
Especially Visma is, we don't remember this.
Yeah.
If you recall, there was that report about how they're broke, basically. They don't have any money to sign riders, which is why they have so many guys working double duty. So it is an interesting question. Where do they go from here?
Right.
I do think Jonas could show up and win other Grand Tours that Pogačar's not at for another couple of years. Does he want to do that? Does he want to get second at the Tour? Is that interesting to him? And that doesn't sound interesting to him. I don't know him, but I'm just guessing. How long is Van Aert going to keep racing?
So.
And let's assume those two guys are gone. Let's just assume they retire at the end of the year, just for purposes of this exercise. That's not an amazing roster. And then should Sepp Kuss think about leaving? Because then his role as Jonas's guy doesn't make a lot of sense. Should he go somewhere else? There is a lot of big questions for that team coming up.
Yeah. They're feeling a bit like I'm not a huge American football expert.
To that. Yes.
It's feeling a bit like
through
the 2025
I guess
Chiefs.
it'd be the 2020.
Like this is the end of the innocence.
4 Chiefs that got to the Super Bowl and then got totally exposed. And you're like, we might be at the end of the line here. I don't think this was like held together by Scotch tape. Yeah, it does. I had that same thought during the tour. I think there's a lot of hard decisions coming up. But Andrew, I may have to depart. Any other final thoughts before we take off?
Well, Spencer, I hope you mean depart this call and not planet Earth, but it's been a pleasure to discuss the 2026 Tour de France with you. And I know you've got to go.
Well,
I'm looking forward to what's ahead. We've got the
Prince. What is this? King
so
Prince,
many bike races coming up that we're hyped
about. The Volta. I think that means he has to do the Volta.
In Hope, Maine.
We should be getting a Pogačar, Wout van Aert featurette at the Volta España, which is exciting. Yeah, we need something. They need Pogačar at that race because that race is stunk for a couple of years.
Can't wait.
But it was great talking to you, where we are with you on your journey through battling and defeating and curing cancer. And we'll be back to talk. I don't know if we'll get into the weeds on Tour of Denmark, but I believe it is happening right now. But we'll definitely be back before the Volta España to check in before that starts.